Hello and welcome to yet another live chat here on LinkedIn Live called Hello America's What's Cooking. My name is Sarah. I am the Regional Director for ECA North America, and you can find us here every Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern, and hopefully we are having our fan club in the house again. Please feel free to shout out to my guests today, as well as ask any questions. So without further ado, Daniel, welcome.
Thank you so much, Shenya. I appreciate the opportunity. It's great to be here, and thanks everyone that is joining us today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Daniel. And before we get started, if you could just quickly introduce yourself as well as your organization so our audience knows who you are.
Sure. My name is Daniel Palomo. I'm Director of International Sales for Houston First Corporation, and great to be here. Thank you again for the invite.
Thank you. And these are really short and to the point live chats. So we are diving straight into today's very specific example, namely, how has Houston focused on the medical sectors and achieved really great strides when it comes to attracting medical meetings to Houston? What has originally inspired that path you took?
Yeah, sure. Well, first of all, what we began doing basically is looking at our vertical markets. As many of you already know, Houston is the energy capital of the world. We have the largest medical center in the world, the Texas Medical Center. We do a lot of work also in other vertical markets, like, for instance, biotech, nanotech, aerospace as well. We work with NASA very closely. But particularly our health sciences is so important for us, not just because of the fact that we have the largest medical center in the world, but also because at the end of the day, we get to interact with many of the medical institutions. So, we said, where can we put most of our resources in such a way that we can build a win-win relationship with our community, in this case, health sciences community, in such a way that they benefit, every time that we can attract a medical meeting, and vice versa, right? I mean, how can we partner with them? We started looking basically at engaging with them at a more deeper level. We started participating back, I would say probably 10 years ago, initially through the Texas Medical Center International Affairs Advisory Council, and working with them directly to attract meetings. So for us, that has been a success story, which is something that, of course, I would like to share with everyone, and hopefully we can also work together in this sector.
Thank you so much. And you are definitely one of the pioneers with this vertical sector strategy for your destination. You did mention some already of those stakeholders and collaborators, but who were really those people who you are working with locally as well as globally to support this initiative?
Right. So I would say that probably your strongest stakeholders, the one that we basically work with the most, are the medical institutions. We have 63 medical institutions that are pretty much part of the Texas Medical Center. We work very closely, for instance, with some of these names probably already know: MD Anderson Cancer Center, Texas Children's Hospital, St. Luke's, Methodist International, Texas Heart Institute as well. So based on the fact that, as I mentioned before, through the Texas Medical Center International Affairs Advisory Council, we get to interact directly with the directors of international for each of the medical institutions. We make an assessment basically in terms of learning which of these medical institutions have doctors, physicians that serve on board of directors within, international medical associations. So we start prospecting, we started having a conversation with them, and understanding, in which ways we can bring value to them, basically, as I mentioned at the beginning, So I'll give you an example, for instance, with MD Anderson Cancer Center, with Baylor College of Medicine, with UT Health as well, the University of Texas Health System. We've worked with them to attract, medical meetings related to oncology. For instance, we just won recently, the International Gastric Cancer Conference that just took place in Houston this year. It was, of course, because of the pandemic, just getting out of it recently, a hybrid event, but it was very successful. So we look for partnerships in such a way that we can both benefit. how does a medical institution benefit when we bring a medical meeting, for instance, to our city? Well, they benefit in many different ways. It's not just about getting more exposure, more branding for the medical institutions, but they also benefit by potentially attracting talent that they can eventually recruit, for their own programs. They benefit as well by also working with those physicians, doctors that attend the meetings, creating these exchange programs, showcasing, for instance, through technical tours, all the technology that is being developed, by the medical institution. So it's a win-win relationship between, of course, the conference organizer, the medical association, the local medical institutions, and of course the city, the DMO, because we're the ones involved trying to make this happen.
And this is becoming then a wholesome, holistic project for you, and has long-term impacts for your destination. You already mentioned some of it. Can you share a couple of more tangible outcomes of such a strategy? What that meant for the development of your destination?
Sure. Well, first of all, as we all know, through ICA, we can prospect through the ICA database to find out which medical association meetings, are going to be rotating, in this case, to North America, to be eligible to bid for those conferences, right? That is one approach, but a different approach or a complementary approach would be, as I mentioned before, to work with your local medical institutions to understand what resources they can put at your disposal in such a way that you can actually close that gap and be in a better position to eventually win the business. And that's what we've been doing. We've been doing that for years, building relationships, getting closer to our community in such a way that we understand not just the medical institutions, but also the research centers, the universities. We understand where there's opportunities for us to be able to eventually bid and find, of course, very important, a champion or an ambassador that is willing to actually take that. I wouldn't say risk, but because at the end of the day, the risk is a share risk. But I would say that are willing to, of course, take lead and be able to help us win the business. Because at the end of the day, as you know, everybody that is in the meetings industry, the decision making process takes level at the board level. So if you have an ambassador or a champion that is locally engaged and is willing to support, it's always good to have someone that can, of course, help you in the lobbying process, help you convince the board of directors to decide to have their meeting in your city.
So the role of the ambassadors is really critical in helping you attract those meetings to your destination. When you're talking to them, what are some of the key motivators you have seen to really convince those ambassadors to take on such a responsible role? Because it is, as you mentioned, it is not their own risk, it's a shared risk, but still it's a lot of pressure and engagement and responsibility on that one doctor, professor, scientist.
Yeah. So there's I would say, different ways, for them to be motivated or incentivized, to take part in the process. Some of them do it because they want to give back to their community, right? I mean, you have doctors that are coming from all over the world, to study, to do research, to do their practice here. And they bring their families, of course. It's not just them, looking for a new job. Is bringing their families. Their kids go to school here. Their spouses, also work here within the community. So it's a way of giving back. They bring so much talent. They bring so much in terms of helping save lives, and doing so much for our community. But it's an additional way of saying, I met, for instance, doctors coming out of other countries, from Australia, from Europe, even from Canada, and they say, what, just because of this opportunity, my life changed, being with your community, being able to interact. My kids love it because they love their school systems. It's a great opportunity for us to get to interact with a different culture, a different community, different way of life. So I want to commit and give back to that community, because I'm getting so much in return, So that is one of the main motivators, Others, depending on the stage of their career, the professional career, they decide to do it because they might want to run for president of that international medical association. So they might have some political incentives as well to to try to bring a meeting here and be more involved, take a leadership role, be able to interact more with the community, eventually get support, in terms of votes. And others do it because they want to help their medical institutions as well. As I mentioned before, attract talent, be able to hire more doctors, be able to have exposure to new technologies as well, and benefit, from what a medical meeting can bring. So there's different, reasons why they will want to be involved.
And I'm giving here a quick plug for our ECA Skills certification program, because we are having an entire module which is dedicated to exactly that, how to really identify those motivators and nurture the relationship with your local ambassadors. And you have even contributed with one of the chapters on bidding and presenting the bids. So thank you for that. And anybody who wants to know more, please feel free to reach out to us on learning how you can join the ECA Skills certification program. One of the key elements for you, probably also when you are talking to your local stakeholders, is how can you demonstrate the value, and do you measure that what is coming? Do you have some tangible results from all the efforts you have put into this specific strategy?
Yes, we do. First of all, as most DMO, of course, do, we need to, first of all, before even bidding, I'm going to walk you through the process. We do a business evaluation, right, to understand if bringing a meeting makes business sense for Houston, right? I mean, we look at, of course, what's going to be basically, the output, but we also look at the revenue, at the expenses, right? You need to at least make it work from that perspective, right? But once we move forward with that, we also look at legacy. What is the legacy that a medical meeting will bring to our community? And I'll give you an example. I was talking before about the International Gastric Cancer Conference. The legacy, basically they were saying, we're going to set apart $80,000 from the profits to set up a North America Gastric Cancer Society, because there isn't one, right? So how can you basically leverage having a meeting here in such a way that you can also engage other countries, other medical institutions, working with Canada, working with Mexico, and creating something that in the end brings value, brings value not just to the local community, but also to the future generations that are coming after us, right? So that is part of the things that we do. We need to make an evaluation in such a way that is, 360 and look beyond the meeting in terms of typically the metrics that we have, as most DMOs already know. We look, of course, at hotel occupancy tax. We look at the sales tax. We look at, what is going to be the impact in food and beverage, of course, expenditure. We look at AV. We look at everything pretty much. But on top of that, let's say by having a medical meeting, what is it going to bring to our community after the meeting takes place, right? After maybe 3 to 5 years, there's a lot of studies being done with this regard. Like, for instance, the iceberg model, right? They go and study further legacy impact. As you know, Senya, we also do this through the Incredible Impacts program that we have between Best Cities Global Alliance and ICA, which is basically providing grants, for a lot of the international associations to be able to run a more effective and long-term legacy project and benefit from it. So I think we need to look further than just the initial outcome and the metrics that we typically looked at, and be able to look at the long term as well.
I couldn't have said it better. And I'm super passionate in running the Incredible Impacts program from ICA's side. It is really important to keep on stressing the importance of that long-lasting impact, not only for the destination, but for the advancing the society itself, the science, and human lives in the end, as you've just demonstrated with the creation of this American Society of the Medical Cancer Association. we could go on forever and ever on this, because that's I'm super passionate about that topic. But we have come to the end of our today's chat, but I'm not letting you go before you share with us any kind of tips or your favorite foods, recipes, restaurants in Houston. I was there for the ECA Congress in 2019, loved every bit of it. What is your favorite?
Oh, there's so many restaurants where to choose from. The food here is amazing. As you know, Houston is within the top 10 cities, in the U.S. for culinary experiences. So for those people that are foodies like I am, there's so much where to choose from. Of course, I particularly like Tex-Mex a lot. I mean, it's of course a combination between Texas and Mexico. There's so many great restaurants here. Irma's is one of them in downtown. I think you have the opportunity to be there, Senya, for the ICA Congress. That's highly recommended. Sochi is another restaurant, one of my favorites. But one of the chefs that actually won he's a James Beard Award winner, which is like the Grammys for chefs, basically. That restaurant is at the Marriott Marquis, really good restaurant. There's so much where to choose from. Steakhouses, right? For those of you that like steaks, I mean, there's so many again. I mean, it's so difficult to just name one, but at the end of the day, you're here, you need to go for steakhouses. Taste of Texas is one that is really good. We bring a lot of our clients, when they come here for site inspections to those restaurants, of course. Seafood, I mean, being by the Gulf of Mexico as well, there's so many options where to choose from, so it's difficult to just tell you one, but in the end, come and visit Houston and we'll show you around, Thank you.
And if you're going to Houston, please make sure to let Daniel know, and he'll tell you even more. And if you want more information on Houston First Corporation, please make sure to visit their website, visithouston.com. Thank you so much, Daniel, for joining us today. And thank you, everybody, for watching as well. We have only one thing left to say, and that is, if you want to join us as one of the guests, please feel free to email me at xenia.p@ecoworld.org. And I have here a shout out just quickly. I'm pretty sure that is Glenn, because I usually never see his name, and I know he's a huge fan of Houston. And next week, we will skip the week with our live chat, as we will, most of us, be in Vegas for the IMEX America show, but we'll be back the week after on the 20th of October, when I will be joined by Dalia Algazar talking about women in tech. Thank you all for joining us. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Senya. Appreciate the opportunity. Bye-bye, everyone.